Hidden in the depths of the mind is a secret tomb where knowledge, fear, mystery, and a macabre sense of enjoyment is held. Each corner is resplendent with its own curiosities, and each curiosity appeals to a different soul. You're listening to The Crypt of the Unknown, a podcast that discusses the realms of the horrific and the fantastic in print, games, or on the screen. And now, introducing you to the Guardians of the Crypt, your tour guides. Here are Webb and Stefan J.D. Greetings, weary travelers, to The Crypt of the Unknown, a podcast about the horrific and fantastical in all forms of media. I am Webb the Critical Android, and joining me, the Cyberpunk himself, Stefan J.D.
Hello, everyone. Webb and I thought it would be a nice day to start again! Wow!
Jesus Christ.
Nice day for a
new podcast?
Yeah, doing a podcast, talking about a Billy Idol album. Sorry, I didn't warn you on purpose.
You didn't warn people about that rebel yell you were about to do?
Yeah, I feel bad for my roommate.
Keep doing like that, you're going to be dancing with yourself.
This is true. Shotgun. Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy, we need to stop with the Billy Idol references. This entire podcast is going to be about a Billy Idol album. We don't need to be referencing more songs.
Right. So, yeah.
But yes, we are discussing our first album that we're covering here on Crypt of the Unknown. And in this case, this really is kind of obscure media by this point in time, because it's something that very few people seem to talk about anymore. And we are referring to the 1993 album by Billy Idol called Cyberpunk. It was, it was his, I believe his fifth studio album. Let me see, there was, not counting his Generation X stuff. Yep, fifth album. There was the self-titled, then there was Rebel Yell, Whiplash Smile, Charmed Life in 90, and then here we have Cyberpunk in 93.
Yeah, Cyberpunk. Apparently, Billy Idol was quoted as saying he was trying to get back to his punk roots with this album. Doesn't in any way equate to punk in my mind's eye. It's just very bizarre and different. He uses like computers to synthesize and create sounds. This is early 90s, so it's certainly just the beginning of computers doing all that bizarre crap. It's really much a concept album, and I guess it was, as he's quoted, saying his answer to grunge music, which is something he shouldn't have done. Like, you should have just, I don't know, not joined grunge, but just go back to punk. Do actual punk.
Well, I think it's important to frame this in the perspective of, Billy Idol, again, he had 4 albums prior to this. His first one went gold in the US, went to number 45 in the album charts. His next 2 records, Rebel Yell and Whiplash Smile, went platinum. Rebel Yell went double platinum, and each topped out at number 6 on the album charts. Charmed Life also went platinum, and topped out at number 11 on the charts, but his production of singles was still very strong in the US at the time. So, a lot of people know White Wedding. That was his first top 10 hit. That went to number 4. Rebel Yell went to number 9. Eyes Without a Face was a number 5 hit. Flesh for Fantasy, number 4. Catch My Fall, lesser known from Rebel Yell, that was number 24. I'm sorry, that was on the rock charts. My apologies, I'm going off of the wrong chart. The chart is still important, but the rock chart's different than the top 100. Top 100, his first top 10 hit was actually Eyes Without a Face, which went to number 4. The others, like Hot in the City and White Wedding, they were strong songs, but they weren't very good on the Hot 100. So, single in 86, To Be a Lover, went to number 6. Sweet 16 number went to number 20. His cover of the Tommy James and the Shondell song, Monet Monet, hit number 1. And then Cradle of Love went to number 2 on the charts in 1990. So, Billy was still doing well on the charts. I mean, Cradle of Love was a huge hit. Just to put that in perspective, the single off of Cyberpunk, Shock to the System, didn't even hit the Billboard 100. It topped out at number 105.
Wow. I guess I should also say for anyone listening, because they're going to be curious about our music tastes and why are we talking about this album, which you'll have to answer, Webb.
Oh, don't worry. I will.
Yeah. And, when I go into an album, and I'm sure you're the same way, Webb, we just go into it, we give it a fair shake, no matter what it is. There's no reason at all to just suddenly be like, it's done by the Spice Girls, it's done by Backstreet Boys, it's done by Billy Idol. It doesn't matter. It's just, going into the album, you're like, all right, I'm going to give it a fair shake. I'll give you what I think about it, and that's what we're doing. So it's not, we're here to bash an album or we're here to praise an album. It's just, hey, let's talk about this with very interesting idea.
Yeah, and when it comes to music, everybody's taste is different. Some people have guilty pleasures that they enjoy. I'm sure we all have songs like that. And then there are songs that, you can argue are legitimately good, even if they're kind of corny. Like, guilty pleasure for me, I love the song Return of the Mac by Mark Morrison.
That's a good song, though.
I think so, but there's arguments you could make that is kind of corny and over the top, and I guess, in a way it is, but it's just so infectious. That hook to it is so great, and I just can't get it out of my head once I start listening to it. It's just a great song for me. But then there are other songs that, again, music is so subjective. This album in general is so interesting because, again, it's a concept album. When you think Billy Idol, you do not think concept album. You just don't. Like, those are not two things that come to mind. But more interestingly, this record was supposed to be something that he was trying to do to revitalize his career after things had gone off the rails because of what happened with I guess part of it has to do with a motorcycle accident he had where he almost lost his leg. So that hurt pretty bad in terms of, not just physical pain, but, his life. And then I guess wasn't feeling satisfied with the direction of his music and felt like it needed to shift. And he became, when he was injured, very interested in technology, which is kind of natural when a person's stuck at home because, they're recovering from a heavy accident or they're sick or you name it. You start to try to, find something to fill that time. And at the time in 1993, computers and technology like that were rapidly advancing. The internet was in its infancy, but still there. So Billy decided to embrace all that, started getting deeper into actual cyberpunk like terminology and the writings of it all. And he wanted to try to take that because he felt that the internet and computers were going to be the new direction for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't entirely wrong, obviously, because he was trying to self-produce this record with his Macintosh computer. And that's what happens most of the time today. You have people who will just literally make albums by themselves on their computers. Just record through whatever programming they use, set it up in a home studio, boom, get it done and over with. So in many ways, he was ahead of his time with this, but this album was heavily criticized by people who felt that Billy was just co-opting cyberpunk culture to try to make himself relevant to a group of people instead of actually being legitimately interested in it. And it was such a radical departure in terms of his style and sound that it didn't connect with an audience. Just didn't connect with them at all. So what we've come here to discuss regarding this album are a couple of things. Number one, the interesting background behind it. Number two, whether or not the album is good or bad. And number three, the ramifications that it had for his career. So we started talking a little bit about the background. Did you do any reading about it?
Yeah. One of the other things that I brought up in my notes here is that Cyberpunk was mostly made popular in authorship by a guy named William Gibson. He wrote the book Neuromancer.
Mm-hmm.
And he is even as quoted as saying that he didn't get what Billy Idol was doing in this album and how it didn't have any connections whatsoever to cyberpunk roots, which I kind of disagree with that. And Gibson himself isn't, in my mind's eye, the end-all be-all on cyberpunk. I've even heard that the book doesn't read well. This is just through osmosis, which, funny enough, Billy Idol even admitted that he didn't read the book, and he said he got it through osmosis. So it's very hard to decide which sword to fall upon when it comes to this. However, the album does, if you read the lyrics to every single song, cover some cyberpunk elements, and we will get to them.
Before we talk a little bit more about it, let's start by talking a little bit about some of the notes that I was reading here about how Billy went into this record, because he wasn't using the same group of people that he normally worked with. A lot of this was done in using, like, programs that were, like, old Pro Tools, DigiDesign, other, like, old... Pro Tools is still around in different forms. But it's really interesting that he put this together using people that he normally didn't work with. For instance, one of the chief guitarists and writers on the album, Mark Younger Smith, worked with a lot of the guitars, hadn't really worked with him before. Robin Hancock did a lot of the editing and whatnot and putting it together, arrangements. Again, people who he hadn't worked with. Even Carney and Wendy Wilson, Wilson Phillips, were on this record as backup vocalists. He hadn't worked with them before. So it's interesting the unique production and playing crew that he had on here where he never really worked with these people before. Mostly, when people think of Billy Idol, they think of guitarist Steve Stevens, who was responsible for a lot of that sound that you think of when you think of Billy Idol. So, completely different crew, really went into this kind of oddly. He put out promotional packets that were computer-based. He opened up his own email address so that people could message him. It's really unique, to put it gently. So again, very much ahead of its time. Like literally multimedia floppy disks that were included with this record with the press packets. So I admire a lot of the ingenuity that was being put into it. He even had a VHS cassette called Cyberpunk Shock to the System that had Shockumentary, the making of Shock to the System. But it really is unique that he went through all of this. And I do appreciate the effort that was put into it. So it's got a really unique background. And if you read up on it, it's very much ahead of its time, and I'll give him props for it.
Well, and here's the thing. You can tell he went into a lot of time with this, because the first track on this album is called Manifesto, which he's just basically going to lay out the whole album for you. At first, when I heard this track, I couldn't specifically hear what he was saying, so I had to put on headphones, and then it was like, oh, okay, he's just talking about Cyberpunk, world, basically. But he's kind of giving the explanation. That's literally all it is. The mix of the album at this point on the first track is bad.
Yes.
Only because I couldn't hear a goddamn thing he was saying. None of it mixes well. Certain aspects of the sounds and the way they're put together is where I get a little miffed with this. It was only when I, again, put on headphones, then I could finally experience, like, whatever intimate feeling he was trying to get across. But I did like how he wrote, the computer is the new cool tool. It's like, yeah, 1993, it was the new cool tool. Good job, Billy Idol. You pointed it out for us.
God bless you, Billy Idol.
God bless you.
Oh, dear. But then after that, we get into the first track, Wasteland. The first actual music track, I should say. And here we have a very slick production. One could argue this is overproduced, because it has a very kind of polished feel to it. Far more polished than you would think for somebody who's trying to identify with punk. But that might be... I don't know if this is intentionally the point or not, because if computers and this whole idea of cyberpunk is trying to be put forward, maybe the heavily produced and polished sound is supposed to be speaking to that kind of how computers are the new technology and the new way forward. Because there's also a lot of little production tricks that he throws in here, like a kind of a sampled voice that keeps saying, no religion at all. So it's very different. What did you think of this track?
Well, from what I put together, this track was, just judging by the lyrics, is kind of about, like, virtual simulation, and how there's no longer religion when you're in the virtual wasteland. And it's kind of an okay track, but it's lackluster, and then it kind of just continuously repeats itself for 4.5 minutes. I mean, he does try to mix it up with, like, the presentation and how he sings the lyrics, and stopping the music for a pause and then starting up again. It's just so weirdly mixed. And then, like, the background, do-do-do-do, the keyboard. That might be the highlight for me, which you actually can't hear over the clusterfuck of sounds. Like, it's this whole album almost is like, it's like, imagine outside your window, there's people in the streets yelling and fighting, and, you hear police sirens and helicopters and guns going off. Just turn those into musical instruments, and, like, that's this whole album. And you get this first take right here on this first track, this actual musical track.
Yeah, there's, again, overproduction. Way too much trying to go on it all at once. Though I do like the No Religion at All hook with the way the sample repeats and how he sings along with it. It provides a nice contrast between the spoken word and singing, and it actually has kind of a nice melody and melodic feel to it. But it is overlong. You could drop easily a minute off of this track, condense it, and it'd probably work a bit better. But like you said, lyrically, it does kind of let the listener know that you're entering into a completely kind of new realm where things that you used to cling to no longer exist.
Mm-hmm. It's just chaos, really. Again, we'll get into it so much more because it just differentiates through the tracks, but like this beginning one, it's really just setting up that here we go.
Yeah. And then this leads us into another little track that's another spoken word called Pre-Shock. Basically, it's just setting things up to bring us to probably the most Billy Idol-ish, if that's a phrase, track on here with Shock to the System.
Yeah. Man, did you watch the music video to this?
I did.
Oh my gosh, okay. This is a hard one to talk about. I'm just going to keep saying this. It's so hard because when you're listening to the song, you keep feeling like it's going to pick up at any moment, but it's very subdued, and like there's other songs that repeat itself a little too much for me, but this one kind of does too. Sometimes that can work in a song, like if it's, I don't know, like a pop song or something, but this one felt very middling, kind of in how it presents itself. I did like one line of the lyrics though, where he says, riot, rape, race, and revolution, yeah. Here come the fire and my world burns still. He's definitely trying to paint a picture of like the world here and how it is in fact a shock to the system. But the guitars, they create a nice kind of like vibe in between the lyrics with like little ditty it does, the little like guitar ditty. But otherwise it's an okay song. I liked it for the most part. I didn't outright hate it. What about you, Webb?
I like the fact that it's trying to tie in the LA riots at the time to this kind of dystopian future that he's trying to paint out here. He's taking, present day tensions and concerns and fears and tying them into a future dystopia. And I think he does that better than you'd think Billy Idol could do something like that. I do like the guitars have a good crunch to them. I'll give him credit. It's not lacking in that. Does this seem to lack the punch of something like Rebel Yell or White Wedding? Yeah, it does lack that punch. But I think that even though this also has a lot of sound going on it, you're not losing out on something because there's too much like in Wasteland. I don't want to call this stripped down by any means because it's not. But I do think that it showcases what this album could have been consistently, and it would have been a stronger album if it had been like this consistently, probably. This is not a bad track, but that music video is something else.
I would say the music video is better than the music. In some ways, but here's the thing. Did you agree that it was kind of like, it felt like it was going to pick up more at any second, but it just kept staying there wherever it was?
It doesn't really, for me, the song that really does that the most isn't a Billy Idol song. When I think of a song that feels like it's going to pick up but never does, I always think of Broken Wings by Mr. Mister.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a song that feels like it's about to take off at any point, but doesn't. Maybe that's what the Broken Wings are, Stefan.
Fly like an eagle to the broken wings.
It's not how it goes.
I know, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. But in this case, yes, you're right. It feels like there could be a pickup on here. Like we'll hear in other songs, but it doesn't come through here.
Yeah. Track 4 on here. or 5, whatever. It doesn't even matter.
5
There's so many tracks. There's too many tracks on this album. Let's just put it that way. But it's called Segue. Segue.
A Segue.
Segue.
There's like the French Cajun pronunciation of it. Segue.
It's like, I kept thinking of A Christmas Story when he's like, fragile. It must be French. So yeah, Segue to virtual reality is like, I think it's like 30 seconds long. It's just, you just hear people talking. It's a voice says, the galaxy, turn on, Ray, operator. And you're like, what is he saying? And it's like, person, woman, man, camera, TV. I'm just kidding. It doesn't say that.
It doesn't, but it could.
It could. But it's just so weird, these bizarre, like, tracks to get us through to the next one. I really don't get them. They could take that whole thing off the album. I'd be perfectly fine.
I would be too. Honestly, it just weighs it down.
It does. It makes it bloated as well.
It does. And it leads us into Tomorrow People.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about this one?
So, this is the one. Because the first couple tracks, you're like, okay, I'm going to try and get into this. Let's see what's up. This is the track where you really, really want to like it. It kept drawing me in, and then all of a sudden I would get very bored. And then I'd get into it, and then I'd get bored again.
Yeah.
Because the tone is very interesting, even if the lyrics are mostly not. They feel like a bunch of ideas strung together to form like a bigger, vague idea about wanting to rise up against the oppression and keep fighting or there'll be nothing left. I think one of my favorite lyrics was, I don't know where I'm running to, I lost my love, lost my hold, I lost my heaven too. Which is an okay lyric, but yeah, the song just never gets there. It's so frustrating.
I agree. It is frustrating. It has kind of a more melancholic feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important in trying to establish this atmosphere, because if you're trying to portray this disillusionment and this desolation, then you can't really do it with upbeat rockers all the time. Like, something has to give here. And it does here, and kind of like painting this like mellower kind of vibe to it, which, like you said, almost kind of lets you settle into it. But sometimes it settles for way too little. Like, it could be doing a little bit more and doesn't.
Yeah. The songs on this, and this is going to be a running thing on this, like, talking about this album, is that some of these songs just go on for way too long. Like,
right.
It's almost like, it's like Pink Floyd songs, but there's really nothing going on. There's no, like, substance to them, and this is immediately where you get that first recognition of, wow, you should have cut this in half, buddy.
Yes. Definitely should have cut that in half.
Yeah, I will give credit, though, to that wicked guitar screech at the end of the song. Very nice touch, Billy Idol.
Yeah. But that leads us into something that, speaking of things that probably should have been edited out,
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow People segues into Adam in Chains. And this song starts off with this really extended, like, so, do you want to be hypnotized?
Just move your body in any way you want it to. Just let your body sink into the groove and let it move. Just fix your eyes on one spot, just one spot. Begin to relax. Now do it.
All right, here's a shell, here's the ball. Put the ball behind the shell, move the shells around. Wait for the ball.
Yeah. It's under cup 2.
That's not how it goes.
It's like, I'm so sorry, but it's like, it's 3 minutes of that. Just feel your mind and feel your body begin to wind down, wind down, wind down, and relax. And if you have any thoughts, just let them drift through your mind. It's like,
yeah, none of that was necessary. This is more of a slow ballad of sorts, where he's speaking from the perspective. It's not a very lyrically dense song by any means, but it's basically talking about people, humanity being bound. Like Adam in Chains, I want revenge, he keeps saying. It's a go-to phrase in this, like Adam in Chains. So obviously the song is trying to symbolize something about humanity being held captive and trying to break apart as the world has been torn apart for them. So it's interesting musically in that it's taking that kind of like mellower vibe from that we started to get introduced to in Tomorrow People, and it tries to inject more of it here too, but I don't feel the song really does enough.
Yeah.
It's too reliant on that, like, what it's trying to do with the hypnotic kind of sense to it. It doesn't quite click and mesh.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's like those hypnological passages at you, and then all of a sudden Billy Idol starts singing 3 minutes in, and you're like, okay, I'm actually starting to like this part of the song, but I had to wait 3 minutes to get here.
Yeah.
You know, but like I kind of got what you're saying about the lyrics. I kind of got that, but it also kind of felt like maybe he's talking to somebody about a suicide pact, like a lover or somebody, or a girl he's in love with, because he thinks he knows. From my understanding of the lyrics, it felt like he thinks he knows the world is going to turn out, how it's going to turn out. He wants revenge, but keeps asking if they're going to kill one another or if we're going to kill ourselves. But maybe it's also just him talking about the earth and the world around, so it doesn't matter. But like, they're fun lyrics, I will say.
Yeah, I wonder if he's talking more about killing ourselves figuratively. Like,
right,
are we going to lose ourselves in this technological world as we tear ourselves apart from the reality that we have? Is stepping into this alternate reality, is it going to kill the part of ourselves that was connected to what we know?
Right, because he's going into computers, you know, sitting there every day working on a computer. I'm sure it had to have rustled up some idea of lyrics in him, and maybe that's where it began. Maybe it was something even before that, but it feels like that. You're right. I think it is exactly like that.
It's actually surprisingly deeper than what I thought it was the more we talk about it. It's kind of weird.
I know. Well, I will say it is one of my more favorite tracks on the album, minus the long-winded opening. It's when I say favorite, I'm using that very lightly.
Well, then, what did you think about the next track, Neuromancer?
This one's kind of a banger.
I thought so too. This one's actually where it starts clicking.
That bass line sliding and popping all around with the fast drum rattle. It's kind of enticing. So you stay in the beat until the chorus starts to hit, and then the guitar does these weird power chords that continue to ring. I don't know, they introduced computer tones halfway into the song. They don't last long, but when they're there, they're fun to listen to.
I think so. Plus, I like that this song has a strong edge of darkness to it. Like, it's got like a not quite dark wave, like not like I don't want to say like late Gary Newman stuff, but it definitely has a strong edge to it in terms of a much darker feel. And when you hear things like, you know, Age of Destruction, Age of Oblivion, and Manuel's and his insatiable greed, more on the answer that sweats from desperate palms, turn on the lies, the secrets of our desolation, or be smothered by the red-hot core.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely is speaking about darkness. It almost kind of reminds me of the opening to Batman Beyond.
In fact, that might be the most cyberpunk part of the lyrics in there. The Age of Destruction, quote-unquote.
Yeah.
But, you know, that... And also, I don't know how you felt about it, but like the little guitar bridge in there kind of lifts the song up a little bit.
It does, you're right.
Yeah, that's where it really takes off, and you're like, all right, now I'm into it. And then they introduce the whammy bar slinging, and you're like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah. This is a perfect example of when he combined the technological aspects of the production with lyrical content that was fitting the concept. But I feel like this is, if he had kept this going, then he could have actually taken that cyberpunk vibe that he was trying to carry, and I think people would have said, yeah, this is actually a really good indication of what somebody can do if they really invest in this this genre, and they actually make it match the medium. This could have been, if he had used this as the template for the rest of the record, I think it could have been great.
I agree. This is followed by a song called Power Junkie.
Oh god, this fucking track.
I'm going to say the structure of this song is a little on point, though. Mixing it up with the keyboard, keeping the music at a specific level, then uplifting again with an electric guitar solo, repeat, blah, blah. You know, introducing two guitars to play the same mini solo, one high note, one low note. You know, that's something that Metallica did a lot, so I don't know if that was influence, but it kind of starts to feel good for that reason, but it's also a little bit And I know you're going to agree with this. You have to, because it's a little bit of an overload.
For me, the lyrics lose me. The lyrics
Yeah,
are
it's the
so
lyrics.
over the top. Where you go, I go crazy! It's just awful.
He's like trying to tie coherently the lyrics with the musicianship, and it just doesn't work.
No, the lyrics are so over the top and on the nose. He keeps repeating, I'm going crazy! I'm totally mad! And it just sounds like a bad joke. It doesn't sound like somebody who's actually tripping on power.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what this, I believe, is what it's trying to refer to. Somebody who's basically tasted power and is now tripping on how powerful, he's become. And of course, how power can lead to corruption and somebody basically falling apart from who they think they are and all that kind of stuff. But the lyric fails. The music is musically intense. It's a strong backing track. But my God, the lyric and the performance of it is just dreadful.
It's very raunchy. It's I don't know. I don't equate it to anything that I want to hear in a song specifically every day. But I mean, it's just Billy Idol. The nitty gritty of it is that it's just Billy Idol saying, "This is how crazy the world is, and this is how crazy I am in it."
Look at me, crazy.
Yeah, and he uses those, Billy Idol lyrics, suck on my meat, love. Now suck on my steed. I gotta go crazy, if you know what I mean. I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy. I'm a madman.
I'm a madman.
Madman.
Oh, God. Whenever I've listened to this album to see if it's aged well or like if I've improved my opinion on it, this song, every single time, it's like, nope, I can't do this. It's a bad song.
This one and Tomorrow People, if I had to listen to this album again, I would skip those.
Well, we're coming up on another interlude here.
Mm-hmm.
That Which Beareth Thorns.
It's very black and white horror. It's got a piano organ going on, very much. It almost like is out of a Castlevania game. I'm not sure what to make of it, honestly.
What is a Billy Idol? A miserable little pile of cyberpunk. But enough guitars. Have at you. Oh, dear. But yeah, that's, like you said, it's kind of almost horror-esque, which oddly enough goes into like the love ballad from the album.
Mm-hmm. Love Labors On.
Not a bad song, but I really don't see where it fits the theme.
Having a ballad inside of this crazy mess of things that you're trying to do, and you keep singing you're a wanted man, I assume he's using it for two meanings. You and I are wanted by the law, and then he's singing about how he's going to rise again, possibly sexual, be a savior and hear the calls of a person, so hence his love labors on. He's wanted by somebody.
Yeah, I guess. That's
all I could take from it. Sorry.
No, I mean, I don't have anything really constructive to say about it. I feel like, again, not a bad song. It's not great. It's not terrible. I think it's out of place here. It could have been on any other Billy Idol album and it wouldn't have felt like out of place. It just doesn't really do anything for me in the least.
No, I agree. It's a ballad song, so what's it doing on the Cyberpunk album? But I guess he was trying to mix it up, maybe. I'm not sure.
Well, he certainly mixed things up with the track after that.
Oh, okay. So here's the thing. I'm going to be honest. The song's called Heroin. It was originally done by the Velvet Underground.
Yes.
And it's bizarre as fuck.
Yes, it is.
At one point, I felt like I was hearing 5 different songs at once.
You probably were.
I think I even heard the Streets of Rage soundtrack at one point.
So, I do not understand. Okay, so the original song that Lou Reed wrote with the Velvet Underground, it's a very powerful song about a person who is, obviously it ties to heroin. It's all about drug addiction. But it talks about, I guess, the love that the person finds for drugs that keeps them kind of like going in the world because they don't really have anything else. But also kind of talks about how they're losing themselves to it as well. It's a very complicated song, which drug addiction is a complicated issue. And heroin makes no qualms about that. But being Velvet Underground, it's not a very accessible song. There's a lot of distorted guitar. Of course, Lou Reed's delivery is now going to be for everybody, since he does more like talking than singing. So it's going to be a little odd for some people to wrap their head around. And for a song that's already odd, here we have Billy Idol turning it to a 7-fucking-minute dance track.
In 7 minutes, granted the fact that when you listen to this song, another new sound is presented about every 15 seconds. It's so turbulent and random everywhere all at once that you almost have to go back and listen to it a second time if you can deal with it, to spend more time with it to get what you just listened to, because it's really the kitchen sink of random noises.
Yeah, there's even at one point you hear a sample being like, Smack Attack!
Yeah, for no reason.
Though it actually sounds more like they're singing Shack Attack, like they're singing about Shaquille O'Neal.
Shack Attack.
Yeah, it's really weird. And then to make things even... Yeah, throw one more thing into here. Billy takes a line from a Patti Smith song. The line, Jesus died for somebody's sins but not mine.
Oh, man.
And incorporates it into the lyric, which is, again, bizarre. It's from the introduction to her song, Gloria. And, you know, as odd as it is, I'm gonna defend this. Probably shouldn't, but I'm gonna try to defend this. I think that given the subject of the song, the idea of Jesus dies for somebody's sins but not mine, and the desolation and isolation that a person could feel on a spiritual level, depending on how fucked up they are, I do think it works for the subject of the song. Whether or not he should have turned that into a hook for this thing is another question. I love this song on an ironic level. Like, this is a song that I will put it on a list of, like, if I really want to fuck with somebody's head and play them sing things that they're not going to expect, I'm going to play them this, because nobody's going to expect a 7-minute electronic dance mix of a Velvet Underground song with Patti Smith and other sampled lyrics thrown in.
It really is a song that speaks for itself. It's bombastic, and you've just given me an idea to, if I ever go on a first date with anyone, this is the first thing I'm gonna play.
This is like when, with my two little nieces, I wanted to, like, be like the first concert they watched. Like, I show them footage of Talking Heads Stop Making Sense.
Oh, nice.
And just see how they develop from that. Like, what's going to happen if they believe that, like, David Byrne is supposed to be their role model.
Oh, my God. You just go up to their parents. This is not my house.
This is not my beautiful wife.
Yeah, you're not my dad.
Where is that large automobile?
Letting the days go by, going to school today.
Kids are just going around, burning down the house, with no idea what they're talking about.
Mom, I'm burning down the house.
Who let you play with matches, honey? No, it's a song, Mom. But yeah, this is similar. Heroin is one of those songs where you would just play this version if you really just wanted to confuse somebody. And it is such an awful concept that was put behind this track that I'm going to defend it purely on the purpose of saying that it's so out there, it's genius in its own terrible way.
You know what, Webb? I'm going to back you on this. I'm going to say if you're going to listen to any song off this entire album, this has got to be one of them.
Yes.
If not the one. Yes.
It is just, oh my goodness. It is so out there. And the world was originally a worse place for it. Now it's a slightly more interesting place for it.
It's true.
And of course, after that, we get another spoken word interlude with the track Injection, of course.
Mm-hmm. Just a booming voice saying, "Stand by for injection," and then somebody going, "Ah." And then you can hear a pulse monitor in the background. It's nothing. Again, bloated.
Which brings us into probably the most bloated song on here, Shangri-La.
Oh my god, okay. This might be my least favorite track on the album.
Totally agreed.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it represented the tone. It just kind of comes out of nowhere, especially after Heroin. This wasn't the track that needed to keep me juiced up and seduced by the album. It's like, if you wanted to do this hypnotism approach, and we already got that, you might have already had me going, and then you bring this down to this level, and I'm just like, what is this? I think that was just my emotions running high off what he'd given me before, so it's unfortunate that this song was thrown in this late, because I appreciate the effort, but the song really didn't do much for me. Billy Idol singing We Can Live Forever and Shangri-La over and over was kind of, it's whatever. I'd skip this track if I was listening to it. I just want to mention, this is 7.5 minutes long.
Yeah, this easily could have been a 3-minute song, boom, done, over with. The only thing I can think of, and I don't know if this is the case, but if a person is high, then, from their heroin, maybe Shangri-La is indicative of the peace and tranquility they found in that high, as temporary as it is. And then the next track becomes smashing back down to reality in Concrete Kingdom.
Yeah, Concrete Kingdom, I don't know about you, Webb, but this kind of felt like the most 90s song to me.
I think so. I didn't have a problem with this one. I actually think it's a pretty okay song. When he keeps reiterating the phrase, ain't no love in a concrete kingdom, ain't much life, ain't no life in a concrete kingdom, I hear cries tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's another verse from it. When all the good have been taken, where all the lost have gone, ravaged and raped, annihilation, amen, all life is it lost, have they won. There is a palpable sense to me of, like, being enveloped and overwhelmed by the populace and by overcrowding and being crammed into, like, this dystopia that he's painting. So I think there is some real life truth to this song, and I think it actually does hold up well, not just lyrically, but musically it's pretty strong too.
Yeah, it's got those, again, like those drums that I remember hearing a lot of sort of percussion beats like that back in the day in the 90s. And I think the only thing that loosely, every track before this that was bombastic, that was kind of, moving fast, they also, in this song, just kind of put in those electric guitars that jump in and out randomly. Mm-hmm. Like they don't stay that long, and it's very, very weird, but this is another one of those songs that brings that in. You're just like, what was he thinking? But it's kind of interesting in a way, because I don't think I've ever heard a song do that same thing through the whole album, where an electric guitar will just jump in for like 30 seconds and then leave forever. It's very odd. It's actually one of the biggest oddities on the album. It's a good one, but it's very odd.
Yeah, odd, but at least it's odd in a good way, I'll argue, as opposed to, like, Shangri-La, which was just odd for being such an overlong, just travesty of a piece, or odd in, like, how Adam in Chains has such insanely extended opening. This is odd in more of a sonically interesting way that does keep you engaged, and if anything, this should have been the thing to follow up Heroin on the record.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually a astute point.
Then we get another interlude with Galaxy Within. I really don't have much to say about these interludes.
Yeah, it just says something like operate your brain, turn on your brain, activate the galaxy, something like that.
Well, Galaxy activated whatever the fuck it is. We're going to Venus now, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a completely unmemorable track to me, though it is more interesting if every time they say Venus, you imagine that they're saying penis.
Oh my god. I didn't even think of that.
Suddenly, the song becomes much more interesting.
Well, I just took it as like he was talking about Adam in Chains, and now he's talking about Venus, like guy-girl type thing. I didn't know what he was going for. Yeah.
But it's like the lyrics, one touch of Venus and she'll receive us. One touch of Venus, yeah, yeah. One touch of Venus and she'll receive us. But if we change that to one touch of penis and she'll receive us. And then you get the next line, I know we'll take a ride. We'll pass the stars and be home tonight, 'cause you, me, way above the stars. If we're writing that penis, then I mean, I know we'll take a ride. So it works better when you think of it that way.
Just the way I want to think of it. No, but to be honest and to be fair about the song, I really couldn't get into it.
Neither could I.
Yeah, this is the point where I felt the album was actually going too long.
Oh, totally.
In fact, yeah, like, didn't it start to feel like, okay, this is like a double album now at this point? Because, I mean, it depends on who you'd ask, because some of the songs are longer than you'd expect on a double album. I don't know. It depends on who you'd ask, but...
I think this song could have been completely excised off the record.
Yeah, it doesn't live up to the first half of the album. It's a perfect example, and so was Shangri-La. These songs didn't need to be on here. They didn't do much for me. They're just very bland. They don't live up to the sounds that came before it, and they go on way too long.
I think Then the Night Comes as a step up, the next track.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is kind of a return to the first half of the record with some of the harder sound.
Yeah, this is where the album starts to pick back up again. I actually like the bass dancing around this song.
Yeah, that is a strong point to it. And maybe this is just because I was coming off of, like, Lackluster, but this one just struck me with its more palpable energy in general.
It's very weird because the bass and the guitar don't perfectly match. There's no construction there, but somehow they still work.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, it's not until the chorus that everything finally culminates in matrimony. And then, I kind of question how they put these songs together because, again, this is where it picks back up, and this definitely would have fit better right after Heroin without Shangri-La or any of the other songs that came after it, really. It's a simple, fine tune. Kind of goes on a little bit faster than some of the other songs lyrically. It's just about crazy people again. Cyberpunk's going out at night, going crazy on the city. There's not a whole lot to unpack here, but I genuinely thought it was a good tune.
I would agree with you, especially compared to what we just had to go through to get to this point.
Oh my god.
And then we get the one more, second to last spoken word here with Before Dawn, which leads into Mother Dawn. And I'm going to say this right now. I love this fucking track.
Wow, I did not expect that.
I think that it's poppier than anything on this record. This has a strong pop sensibility to it. And it also has a far more uplifting tone. And I love how things kind of build up in the chorus. It's got this great build up in the chorus when they keep singing, hold me, breathe the light into me, hold me, Mother Dawn. And it just kind of comes in as like this kind of a breath of fresh air. Like, look into the light, come and take a journey through the land of night. Darkness strokes the face and steals away the sight. Night is all around me, stars are in my hair. I feel them tangled in the secrets we'll find hidden there all night, reaching through the madness to the other side, where the sun is rising with her arms held wide. Like, we're finally coming to, hopefully, what might be some sort of peace. And the way that they put it together through this kind of symbolic nature of the sun rising and putting like a motherly quality to it, I think it's actually a really good track.
It really is the most positive track on the album. And, with the addition of the backup female singer, it's very uplifting. And it kind of makes you dip your head from side to side. It's just a really positive song.
Yeah, it took us 20 tracks to get to it, but we finally got there.
Yeah.
Well, I really do defend this as one of the stronger songs on the album, in my opinion. And I feel like, cut part of Tomorrow People, cut that song by about 2 minutes, cut off that extremely extended opening of Adam in Chains, get the fuck rid of that. Keep Neuromancer at 4 minutes 30 seconds, that was good. Tighten up Power Junkie for being as bad as it was. Cut out Love Labor's On. Keep Heroin, because my god, that is just a masterpiece.
That's some song somewhere that was made.
Cut Shangri-La in half. Keep Concrete Kingdom. Cut out Venus. And if you do that, I think you have a much tighter record here that would end, like, that positive note would come a lot sooner. And I think that would really help it.
Yeah, I agree. Although I do disagree about Mother Dawn, and maybe it's the pessimist in me or something, but I think it should have ended on a dour, sour note. I do not like the upbeat of it. I don't like that it's happy. I just wanted this album to be like, you know what? Fuck it, we're all gonna burn. So, that's the only point I'd say I disagree with you, Webb. It's just Mother Dawn, but otherwise, I think we both agreed pretty much on the whole album, which is very weird.
Just send you a copy of Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska and be like, here, everything's dour on this.
Yeah. Just throw that in there.
Here's a record about people like losing their lives to crime and hopelessness. Have fun with it.
Yeah. How'd you feel about the outro of Billy Idol just basically talking about God and souls and senses burning?
Well, I mean, when I looked for spiritual guidance, naturally, I turned to Billy Idol. Because who doesn't, right?
Hey, he did in The Wedding Singer. There is that.
I think I don't find the recap necessary. I think it just should have ended. At this point in time, I'm sorry, but I just want it to end. Like, Mother Dawn was like, okay, we're good. Here's a good point to end on. So let's get the hell out of here now. We've overstayed our welcome anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't find it necessary at all.
Yeah, the last words you hear in the album is somebody in the background yelling Cyberpunk. So, I'm really trying to get that point home.
See, all the little interstitials there were pointless in the sense of, okay, we know it's a Cyberpunk album, Billy. We know it's the fucking name of the record, Billy. You don't have to keep, inserting these things. We get it. Let the music speak for itself. And this is something that's problematic with almost all concept albums. You either have a record that gets too heavy in its story to where the songs suffer for it, or you have a record where the songs are good enough, but they don't carry the story properly. You lose the story. I can't think of a lot of concept albums that just nail it start to finish. I really can't.
Maybe the closest would probably be Pink Floyd's Animals.
Maybe.
Being based off George Orwell's book, just for the... I mean, but again, it's not their concept, so maybe that doesn't count.
I mean, even The Wall has some pretty either junky songs or the story doesn't quite hold up.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say The Wall is bloated like this is, but it's definitely more in line of there's too much talent to go around, kind of like the Beatles. They could just make 30 songs on one album and it would still be great, but it doesn't necessarily all need to be on the album type thing.
Right. And in this case, obviously we've gone through and said what could be cut, what could be reduced to make this a better record. And I think this just comes from the tunnel vision that artists can have when they think they've hit on something that they really enjoy, but there's nobody else around outside of that tunnel to be like, you guys really thought this was a good idea?
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. I can only compare it to when people play test video games or they work on a video game and they have some sort of weird control scheme. They might have, for jumping, we put it R2 to jump instead of the X button. Why would you do that? That makes no sense. Why would you do that? Or it's in order to throw a grenade, we had you use the triangle button. Why would you do that? That's not what the triangle button's for. What do you think you're doing?
Stop saying these things, Webb. That would be awful.
It would be awful. But because they got used to it, it seems normal to them. And here we have an example of 20 tracks, 71-minute album from Billy Idol about cyberpunk. Perfectly normal.
You know what he needs to do?
Put out a Christmas album? Because he did that too.
He needs to start again! Come on!
I hate you. I hate you so much. So, what do you think of Cyberpunk as a whole? The album, not the concept and the theme.
Man, that's tough. Alright, so basically, I can't believe you picked the longest fucking album ever, Webb, for our first goddamn album. You son of a bitch.
Okay, but putting that aside, I mean, when you look at this, it's an interesting record in the fact that it fits our kind of theme of things that are fantastical or kind of creepy or just weird, horrific. So it fits in with the theme because this is a darker album in terms of its themes. It's really unique. And, this is not something that other people talk about. That's part of the reason why we did this stuff, is to talk about things that, other people don't cover.
No, yeah. No, I appreciate you actually doing this because here's the thing. I really didn't listen to Billy Idol outside of hearing him in movies, and occasionally I'd put on White Wedding. I played a little bit of Rock Band. Everyone had been through that. We all know who Billy Idol is just from that one song. But to me, Billy Idol isn't somebody that I'd actually ever go out and buy an album of. That's not to speak on any of his talent. He's a talented person. He certainly had talented musicians play with him. I like Billy Idol as a person. He seems really, honestly, he seems like he'd be a fun person to hang out with, even to watch perform. That being said, this is the first Billy Idol album that I actually listened to the whole way through. And you know what? I would say if you're really interested after what we said, it is worth listening to once, just for the experience, just to remember anything we said and see if you agree with it. I honestly think we nailed our discussion with it because it really is a little bit bloated. Some things need to be cut. The ideas were kind of cool in some things. The lyrics were give and take bad, but they did kind of nail the idea of what a cyberpunk world would be, and he did try to speak to things like that in the early 90s, which I assume would had to have been hard as fuck, even with William Gibson's book that he didn't read, but that aside as well, yeah, it's kind of a turbulent album, and the slower songs, I mean, I can't say anything other than they should be cut, but the turbulent songs, I appreciate the circus of noises he introduced me to. So it's worth listening to for one time for me, but other than that, maybe Heroin, maybe one or two other songs I might listen to in the future. I can't say for sure, but yeah, that's my critique on it. What about you, Webb?
Well, before we get into my critique, I do want to posit this twofold question here to you. Where the first part of it is, do you think that Billy Idol was actively trying to co-opt this culture and, like, use it, like, exploit it? Or do you think this was an honest interest in it that he was trying to tap into? And the second part of this question, do you think this album deserves to torpedo his career?
Okay, so for the first two things, I don't think he was trying to capitalize on it, and I certainly don't think he tapped into it. I think he tried to, but this shouldn't have torpedoed his career now.
I'm going to agree with both of those sentiments. I think that his interest in this was honest. I think as a guy who, broken leg, holed up inside of his house, thought, well, man, if I can't get out and I want to record music, I need to learn to do it myself. Technology is great for this, and holy shit, there's like a lot of things that technology, this is the wave of the future, and the cyberpunk thing, it seems like this could be right up my alley. I think he legitimately identified with elements of this, even if he didn't understand it fully. But I think he identified and saw something in it that was part of, the wave of the future. And he wasn't entirely wrong. I don't think he was trying to exploit cyberpunk culture for personal gain. I think he was legitimately inspired by it. And I definitely don't think this should have torpedoed his career like it did. I feel bad that it did. He deserved better than this. Especially because, as failed as this album is, I think that a lot of the effort and energy put into it was legitimate. And that's something that you and I have said that, we wanted to do with this podcast, where we never wanted to deny a person's honest energy and effort. And I do think the energy and effort into this was honest.
Oh, yeah. I think even, I know musicians are supposed to act a certain way and come off a certain way, but the way Billy Idol is, and just his general personality, and even the way he appears in the Shock to the System music video, it's like he's having a good time with this. He's putting on an actual performance that he believes in. That's just what it looks like and what it sounds like, and the ideas put into this album, you don't get those ideas just from sitting around and dicking around the computer. I mean, he had to have done that, but it was to get a sound, and this album certainly has a sound. It's there. So yeah, I mean, God, he had to have been into it, which is terrible, because maybe he just did it at the wrong time. Like, maybe if that came out today, it would have been received slightly better. Something.
Yeah, I think it was, this was 1993, so this was really early. Maybe 98, it would have been a little bit better.
Yeah, 98, definitely.
About 5 years ahead of its time, maybe. But there are tracks from this that I would take forward to enjoy listening to. It's sad that Heroin is one of them, considering how objectively awful it is. But that's just the thing, when you go so overboard. But, like, if I had to pick 3 tracks off of this to listen to, it would be Mother Dawn, Heroin, and Neuromancer.
Ooh, man. I do like Shock to the System with the music video, but the song by itself, no. Yeah, Neuromancer, Heroin, and then maybe, I know you wanted to cut it, but maybe Love Labors On.
Again, I only wanted to cut it because I didn't think it was good for this album, but I didn't say it was a bad song, at least.
Yeah, just if they're going to give any slow love ballad on the song, then that could be the one. It's not going to be Shangri-La.
Oh, God, no.
I would disagree. I think there was another song, The Night Comes, that needs to go. So, yeah, it would be those three.
I think you could have a really effective EP on this if you took Wasteland, Shock to the System, Neuromancer, maybe Concrete Kingdom, and Mother Dawn, but then, release Heroin as a single, just to, like, say, yeah, check this shit out. This is stuff that didn't even make the EP, damn it.
All over your face.
So, in general, though, do you keep this crypt open or closed?
Man, that was a tough-ass question. I would say open only for people to experience the plethora of weirdness that was Billy Idol in the early 90s and just what he was trying to do. That's the only reason. I don't even know what to say. If there wasn't as good as some tracks produce some interesting sounds, then I would close the crypt on it. That's the easiest way to say it, because you really can't, as much as we talk about it, listen to it and then go listen to the album and you'll know what we're talking about. It's too hard to describe sometimes.
It really is. I would say take a peek inside this crypt. I'd take a look and be like, lift up the coffin lid a little bit and be like, what do we have in here? Oh, I'm going to close that back up and pretend I never saw that.
I'm a dick. I got a cut. Yeah, so.
But no, it really is. It's a one-of-a-kind record. You will not hear anything else like this. And for that alone, for the experience, yeah, I think you should take a peek inside that crypt. But I wouldn't plan on, like, keeping that thing open to show other people when they come over to the house. It's like, hey, want to listen to Cyberpunk? Can't even say it with a straight face.
Good God.
Hey guys, you don't want to listen to Billy Idol's Cyberpunk? I can't say it with a straight face, man. Can't say it.
Oh man, because when I was listening to these tracks, there's obviously on YouTube, there's comments and people are like, man, I love this album, best album ever. I'm like, really?
The best?
Really? The best album ever? I don't know about
better
that.
Than Dark Side of the Moon? Better than, Who's Next?
Better than Spice Girls' debut album?
Better than Sign of the Times? Purple Rain? Seriously? Better?
Oh, we're gonna have to cover that someday.
I mean, maybe if you want to say, oh, this is the best Billy Idol album, I'll still be like, really? Better than the self-titled?
But it's,
yes.
Yeah.
Look up the tracks on YouTube. Do not buy this album for yourself. Don't do that to yourself. But look up the tracks on YouTube. Oh, dear. If we want to hear your thoughts on it, though, because this is a really open for discussion. And by the way, again, if you like the songs on here and you disagree with our assessment, great. Music is wonderfully subjective, and we would never tell you not to like this music. If you enjoy it, fantastic, and we do want to hear why you enjoy it. So you can leave comments here on the YouTube channel, or you can tweet myself at criticalandroid, or you can email me at thecriticalandroid@gmail.com. Stefan, how can they get a hold of you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm Cyberpunk Holiday. Very much in line with this album.
Is that the Christmas version of this? They just have bells that go on in the background?
Yeah, it's just the same exact album. There's just Christmas bells and kids laughing every randomly.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remix Heroin and I'm just going to put Christmas bells in the background of the entire song for you.
It does need a remix. Yeah, so I'm just Cyberpunk Holiday on Instagram. Come say hi.
I'm hopeful that they will. So, anyway, as we conclude another session here of diving into the crypt, Stefan, I want to thank you for joining me.
Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Yes, thank you all. Do you know what I need to do?
Get
Start
it up first.
again!
There we go.
Wow! That's how it feels, you little fucker. I'm leaving that in the recording, too, now.
I have headphones on, too. It's just like, wow!
Oh, dear. So anyway, thank you all for listening. For myself, the Critical Android, and Stefan JD, thank you all for joining us. We look forward to speaking with you again soon. But for now, the crypt is closed. Start again.
Wow.
Smack attack.
Smack attack.